Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Cultured Nerd Podcast. And you know what? This week we're doing another live one for you. Looks like we had some busy things happening in our lives, so we decided that we couldn't make Monday or Tuesday work. So here we are on Wednesday, making sure we're bringing the news to you. So on this episode, we're going to talk about, I guess the commonality is the perils of blindly following internet rhetoric prior to the release of a project, because for the last few weeks, X-Men 97 was having just shitstorm after shitstorm, and everyone assumed it was going to be a dud, and then it came out, and everyone loves it. And on the same flip side, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, the preliminary reviews came today, and they are so mixed that it's actually one of the most divisive films of the franchise, and some of the reviews are actually worse than the 2012 female-led Ghostbusters movie, which everyone can agree should not be worse. This shouldn't be worse then, but somehow this is where the reviews are. So we're going to talk about everything and everything in between. So let's just get right into it.
Taylor, I can't believe it. They brought back the Mega Man cartoon. Did you see all those guys with Mega Busters?
I was watching it, and I'm like, first off, these racists look like just straight up modern day racists set in the 90s. I'm like, first off, this is funny. I was like, okay, I see what they're doing here. And then I said, holy crap, they've all got Mega Man blasters. And I was like, this is awesome.
It's crazy. I thought the one guy was going to have a Mega Man blaster as like an Easter egg. No, they all have them. 4 more guys show up with power busters.
I was just like, okay, so we're going to do this. And then they all had them. And I'm like, oh, I guess we're doing this. Okay, let's do this.
Taylor, it was very watchable. And the action sequences were pretty good and thought out. And this is what I mean. That part where Cyclops is just blasting around the room. That's exactly, as a little kid, the kind of stuff you want to do. Also,
can we talk about Storm when she walked in the Sahara and it was like, guess what? And then she made like a glass tornado. That was one of the coolest animated X-Men scenes I have ever seen.
I also think they gave Morph one of the better fight scenes. The fact that
it was so
turns
weird.
Into Psylocke, turns into a bunch of different people. Also, for sure, Morph and Wolverine get it on. When he throws the bag of chips at his lover and brings him the 6-pack, and he's like, I'm not into that. And then he turns into Sabretooth and goes, all right, bro, let's dance. Taylor, I'm liking what I'm seeing.
I have so many mixed emotions on a lot of stuff. Because, like, obviously I was like, oh, okay, so this is a different Morph. And then they switched it back to the old school design of Morph. And I'm like, okay, so I don't know what you guys are doing, because now we're seeing a different face of Morph, but now they're seeing the old face of Morph. And I really hope you guys explain how he's not dead again and how he joined the X-Men again.
We'll find out.
Yeah. Especially because they teased all the Sinister stuff in the intro.
Yes, which I feel like, and did they also tease Nightcrawler in the intro?
I feel like they teased a lot of characters in the intro, that more than I was expecting.
But see, I don't necessarily know if all those characters are going to be here, because Morph is turning into lots of people. Morph turned into Blob. Morph turned into Colossus. Morph turned...
Archangel.
Also turned into Psylocke.
Yeah, and he made fun of Jean a couple times, and Sabretooth, and there was just a lot going on. It is the proper way of using a metamorph, I think. If you're going to have a character who can shapeshift, use that character to make all the cameos you want.
I love when he said it's bouncing time. He goes bouncing. He called him like he made him turn into the Blob, which is like, I guess, a maneuver they've practiced in the Danger Room, which they showed front and center. Okay. I'm going to let you know that the pacing is a little difficult. It's a little slow at times.
A little weird pacing wise.
Animation. Some scenes look great and some look a little lazy.
Yeah. That was one thing I noticed too. So some of the scenes, the animation, the fight scenes, phenomenal. Some of the slower scenes, it looked dialed in. especially in a couple times where he's like when he was talking to the UN secretary lady, and he looks over to his X-Men, and they're all kind of in static poses, and I'm like, did you guys just hold the camera longer than you animated? Because this looks really lazy.
I feel like there's not enough episodes. I feel like in that first show, there was a reason why we had so many storylines and we got to see so many characters. How many episodes are there altogether?
So we've only got the first 2 that have dropped, but I think we're supposed to get like a full season, like an animated season.
Right.
So I don't know what we're actually
Taylor,
gonna get.
I'm talking the original show. How many episodes are there of the original show?
So the original show, the episode count was pretty massive.
See, I think the issue with this show is it's only going to be this kind of one narrative. I feel like this show needs 30 episodes, and we're not going to get that show.
Okay, so the original X-Men show from 1992 to 1997 only had 76 total episodes.
Taylor, 70 in a world of Netflix shows and Disney Plus exclusives, 76 episodes sounds like 1 million episodes.
Yeah, I think a lot of people tend to also forget with the way shows used to be done. They would syndicate a show, or they would bring a show on, and then they would have it go for like, you would get like 40 episodes for one season because that was just how they did it.
And then it would just repeat. I feel like I saw so much of that show in repeats.
Yeah. For the new show,
I think we get 10, 12.
Episode count
18.
10 episodes.
We
only get 8 more weeks of this.
I kept questioning that. Was this show for adults? Because sometimes it felt like it was supposed to be for kids, but then other times, like Cyclops is bleeding from his mouth. So I don't know where it's straddling a weird line.
That was actually one of my complaints going into a lot of this show, was that we had this discussion before where the show was originally made for kids. So the new show seems to be made for the kids of that original show. And we are now all in our 30s and 40s watching the show. And yes, part of us are expecting the show to age with us a bit, but also it seems like they're trying to, is that my fire thing, or is that you?
That's your fire thing, and there's nothing we can do, Taylor. You can't
There
rip
is
it.
something I can do right now.
Don't do it, Taylor. He's going to rip it out of the wall or something.
Yeah, to hell with you, because I forgot you were even in here.
You can't talk to me like that, Taylor. How dare you talk to me like that?
Anyway,
Okay.
I took it out. Batteries out. To hell with this. Also, for everyone questioning, I did try to sell these T-shirts on the interwebs, and every time I listed them, Warner Brothers shut them down. I was able to get 2 made for myself, my blue guy and my black one, and they sent me these, and then they promptly said, "We're never making any more ever again." So Warner Brothers is a bummer in that regard because they won't let people make their own merch, and they also not making their own merch. So. Bummer.
It's crazy that you can't be like, no, this is my design. It's not.
I did that. I actually said that. I'm in the review. They're like, this is not your design. I'm like, but it is my design. They're like, there's enough of the Superman symbol for it to not be your design. I'm like, oh.
They can't control S's, Taylor. That's not their job. I want a shirt with a big S on it and a cool S font.
Yeah, and I have the Japanese text that says Superman in Japanese.
We're not talking about Superman. We're talking about X-Men. What didn't you like?
So as we said, some of the animation stuff was a little weird. I also had a little bit of a gripe with how they handled some of the dialogue. Seemed like they were trying to parody the 90s from what they remembered the 90s to be. And then I watched the nightclub scene in the first episode, and I'm like, this is not very 90s at all. This music is not very 90s at all. I see like you guys are trying to say, oh, they have underground nightclubs in the 90s, but you're trying to make it look like a 2003 nightclub with the kind of music that they had around then, but not 97.
I don't know. That's a great question. Should there have been a band? Should there have been a fake band on the stage?
No, we should have had like the Night at the Roxbury shit playing on, like the stuff that was actually existing in the 90s, not dubstep that was made to look around 90s.
Eurojam is what you're talking about.
Yeah, like we were like in the 90s, it was very
It's a
straightforward.
beautiful night. Oh, oh, oh.
Exactly.
It's a beautiful night.
That's what would have been playing in the nightclubs, and people would have been like just going nuts to that music. And now, in hindsight, we're like, why did anyone dance to that?
Boom, 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 boom. I want you in my room to spend the night forever from now. Yeah, that's what it should have been.
Yeah, I was just, and then I saw the guy like going around with the the glow sticks and raving, and I'm like, was raves a thing in the 90s? I don't.
They
remember.
were a thing in the 90s. We weren't going to them. We were too young. We weren't dropping acid in the middle of the forest with glow sticks.
Yeah, no, that was high school. That was the early 2000s. But no, but I don't know. There was stuff like that. Like some of the 90s references didn't make any sense. Also, the voice acting seemed a little jarring because you had people that sounded similar and some people that actually were the same people. And
they should have recast everybody.
Like you have, I as much as I say yes, the Wolverine voice was perfect because that was fine, but Rogue sounded like, if that was the same actress, it sounded like she'd also been playing Harley Quinn the whole time and now is playing herself again. So there was a bit of a like, I don't know, it just didn't feel the same way. Jubilee didn't fit, but I also understand that that's not the same actress as Jubilee, so that was completely different. But all in all, I did enjoy it a lot. When the theme song started up, I got super excited.
Beast MVP again. There was as soon as Beast tosses that Sentinel with one arm, Taylor, he's so strong, he flips him, then does a cool Mario spin into his the pipe that is his chest, controls him. They're giving Beast a lot of love, and I'm down for it.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I'm watching, I'm like, I have so many questions on how Beast could have. Apparently, inside of Sentinels, their system works like a mech suit. So if
you could just wear them. You could just put them on.
I was like, first off, how is this happening? Second off, this is awesome.
You can put them on, and then you can bang your Euro beats. Do you think you're better off alone? More things they could play inside the
Sentinels.
But again, I thought that was like a great introduction to like Sentinels and stuff like that, which I feel like haven't been a thing in such a long time.
They really haven't, because I think what people tend to forget. I ate a fruit snack. Sorry. What people tend to forget is that in the 90s, the Sentinels were like the big bad of everything X-Men, and then in the end of the 90s, in the early 2000s, when we started getting the X-Men movies and you had the limitations of the filmmakers, they started focusing more on the characters from the films, and we never saw Sentinels again. So it's like we had like almost 20 years where you didn't see a Sentinel on film or on TV for a long time. And now it's like, hey, they're back. And they are still giant metal assholes.
Yeah, but they're, funny enough, we've gotten a little bit of Sentinels in the movies, right? We got the inklings of them.
Well, we got in like 2005 or 6 when X-Men 3 came out, we had that one Sentinel head cameo. And then in X-Men Days of Future Past, we had these Sentinels again. But
those don't look like this. These are the Sentinels I remember, and I would love to see them in a movie. I think it'd be great for people to fight them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Sentinels that we got in Days of Future Past were like retro Sentinels, and then we had the future Mystique Sentinels, and I'm like, I just want the giant robots with the tentacles, and that's what I want.
Now, I don't want to ask you because you'll spoil the whole show for me, but absolutely, they showed Sinister messing with Morph in the intro, so obviously they want us to remember that happened. And we just now saw the introduction of, I mean, spoiler alert, put the thing up. If you haven't, well, I mean, I guess it came out today. People should go watch it.
Okay, so the last few minutes of the seasons also set up the bad guy for the season.
Okay.
And I have a lot of questions too, because now I'm wondering which is the real one and which is the bad guy and all that stuff. So I don't want to spoil it because obviously the show just came out. And I watched it on my lunch break at work. So,
but they're going to go to Genosha, right? Like that's got to be an episode. We probably...
Did it also feel like when Magneto was saving the world and I'm like, okay, this is cool. And then he's like, I started sending people to Genosha. I'm like, are you just bolstering your ranks for the future when you decide to not be a good guy anymore? Because that's what Genosha was your like home of, this is my mutant people that will also fight for me.
He is the Moses of the mutant people down in Genosha. That's his people. I
Jewish
think
villain is being Moses again. Okay.
I think his purple outfit did not work.
It didn't work for me. I liked the red.
When he shows up to the UN looking like a psychopath wearing that outfit, because everybody else is wearing, like, even the X-Men outfits with the jackets, just the yellow and blue with the brown. Like, he should have looked like Morph. I don't know. I feel like he should have looked different.
Let me find X-Men uniform.
Not even the red one. I get that that's his bad one. And listen, I like this Magneto costume. I get that it's a throwback. I like the way it looks. It looked like he was wearing...
He had in the comics around that time. And he's had some weird costumes.
It looked like he was wearing his good night pajamas to the UN. Yeah.
To me, it was so weird seeing him like fly around in it, but also they kept the animation of his eyes like this the whole time. So he's like, I am the good guy. Yeah, I'm like, Magneto, you look terrifying.
Show's got some crazy eyes. There's a couple people that do crazy eyes. Wolverine did crazy eyes when Jean Grey ripped the roof off the car, and he was like, oh! Which then made me sympathize with that doctor, because he's like, we can't do it. You'll ruin the hospital. And then they ruin that doctor's day, and they do it anyway. But it was like, she just ripped the top off that Suburban like 2 seconds ago. Maybe the hospital should have some protocols.
I mean, is it wrong that I when I think of like Magneto on the X-Men team, I think of X-Men First Class where he's in the yellow and blue. And I would have just been cool with him wearing a yellow and blue with an X on it. And then like a yellow cape or something that's in the X-Men colors. I'd have been like, okay, X-Men Magneto, I'm due with this.
I remember the show and people not liking the mutants. Boy, are they hate mutants. They hate them so much. And maybe that's why the show feels authentic a little bit, because it's like, yeah, it's pretty bad. Also, did you see the January 6ers going to the UN, Taylor?
Yeah, I was watching it. I'm like, I feel like I do see that there's a lot of modern politics being injected into the 90s here. In this very funny way, like everything with Trask saying at the like, we have to stop you because you're going to breed us out. I'm like, you sound like an anti-gay rhetoric kind of guy where you're just like, the straights need to be protected because the gays are going to stop. I'm like, I'm watching it and I'm like, I don't even remember him being like this in the 90s. He just hated mutants. There was nothing about making it normal or the new fat. Like you're in. None of that rhetoric existed. It was just, I don't like them.
It's fine. The X-Men are a canvas for all platforms and all messages, and it works. And that's the other thing, that all the good stuff outweighed all that stuff.
Yeah, but the good stuff, I loved the moment the intro started, and I'm like, oh, this is slightly different. And then I started getting into the music, and I'm like, oh, I'm a child again. I love this. And I was getting really happy. And then the ending, when they did that CGI character turnaround thing, I was like, hey, they brought it back. They really did do the whole thing again.
It felt like the select screen of a video game I want to play. I want to play the game. I want to play X-Men 3 for the Sega Genesis, where they go to the UN and you get to choose your character and you fight, shoot a laser beam, go fight a Sentinel.
But then also comes my biggest complaint of the show was how some of the dialogue for the show, it was treating you like you didn't know these characters, even though it was trying to pretend that this is a continuation of the last episode.
That's why I kept asking, who is this for? Because in a kid's show, you spell out everything.
Yeah. So there was a couple scenes like in the nightclub, and Rogue is like, I couldn't go down there because if they touched me, it would happen. And I'm like, I know this, Rogue. We know this. Everyone knows this.
Cut to one episode later, she doing handsy stuff in the library, Taylor.
Yeah, and I'm just like watching. I'm like, who is this show for? Because apparently they think that the people who are watching the show haven't watched the original or hadn't watched it in 30 years. But everyone who was excited for the show also was watching the previous show last week on Disney Plus.
Yeah, and that's why I don't. And that was why I was so confused with some of the character redesigns. It's like, if this is for an adult audience, make them look, because so far it's a little bit like Days of Our Lives. There are multiple love triangles going on.
Yeah. And it just seemed really weird. But I don't know, man.
Do you think we get 2 episodes a week? Do you think you only one episode?
We got the 2 episodes for this premiere, and now we're going to go back to 1 episode a week until it ends in May.
will the ending of this line up with the Deadpool movie?
You know, I do kind of hope that the reason why they're making this big push for the X-Men 97 is that they're going to canonize it as this is the background for the X-Men that are going to be in Secret Wars. That's kind of what I'm hoping. But who knows at this point? Because there's so many rumors and gossips and all this stuff going around of what is happening behind the scenes that I don't even think Marvel knows what they're planning to do with this stuff.
Well, Taylor, let's live in Rumorville. Let's start it up. Let's set the internet ablaze. I keep hearing this Secret Wars team, and it keeps getting bigger, and it's supposed to be everything under the sun. So Is there 2 Spider-Mans or is there 1 Spider-Man?
From my understanding, all the biggest rumors have said that there are more than 1 Spider-Man and that the main characters of the Secret Wars are Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and another variant played by Robert Downey Jr. as another Iron Man. And those are the big 3 in the Secret Wars.
An audience is not going to want to be introduced to these people just to watch them die again. I don't think
that's what they're doing. I mean, we already understand that the Secret Wars is going to end, and Marvel's going to do this crazy hodgepodge soft reboot. So we already know that most of these characters aren't going to make it out of this film.
Yeah, it just makes me wonder where it's going. And then if you bring in this X-Men 97 element, okay, so does that mean we get multiple X-Men or just Wolverine?
I want multiple X-Men, especially because they already teased the Beast from this universe in the Captain Marvel's movie that no one actually watched, but watched that scene. So I do want them to at least follow through on that part.
It's crazy that they went to Kelsey Grammer of all. It's insane that they went to X-Men 3 Kelsey Grammer Beast.
Well, I mean, to be fair, if you're going to get Beast back, get the guy that was born to play Beast and that was misused every time he was playing Beast. So I loved the casting. I saw the movie in theaters with you, and we both were like, okay, that was a thing. But we also both agreed that having Kelsey Grammer as Beast was like the best casting ever.
It was so disappointing. X-Men 2 was an amazing cinematic experience in a theater. The audience was jacked. It has a great tease at the end. The movie is phenomenal. X-Men 3 was such hot garbage.
And there's so many things about X-Men 3 that still make me mad.
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
I'm like, wow, so you guys are canonizing internet memes. And that was before internet memes existed. They canonized that, which I thought was kind of a silly thing to do.
Yeah, that's one of the OG memes, isn't it? That's like one of the grandfather of memes.
Yeah, because it was an X-Men clip that someone had put together with a bunch of other clips, and then he dubbed over it himself. And the most takeaway line was, "Raw, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch." And it was that. I was like, wow, this was like the meme that started memes.
I always like those G.I. Joe redubs. Audience, if you have not seen those, you must go see them. They'll make you laugh your pants off. They're very silly.
There's a lot of silly stuff on the internet that people would laugh their pants off.
So what I was led to believe a mere 5 days ago was that the creator of this show was fired from the show because the show was going to be bad. The show's not that bad and is probably more watchable than other things that they've released, especially for a first episode. This was pretty good.
Yeah.
So then was he just fired for normal firing purposes? Like, maybe it has nothing to do with this?
It actually sounds like that's the case. The more information that's come out from behind the scenes is that someone said that this guy created a very hostile work environment. And it was funny because like I saw a quote where they were like, so he's less of a I'm going to make everything woke and everything's ruined, and more of an Ellen DeGeneres behind the scenes. And I just hate my employees hate me. Like,
yeah. And I was told a long time ago, before it was known that Ellen DeGeneres was bad, I had known people that were either interns or writers or had worked on PAs, and they had all said that she was awful, awful, awful. Has he then been awful on all of his other projects as well?
Well, it's not clear because he's been fired from everything. He's officially off of Disney and Marvel across the board. So he's gone.
It's crazy to burn that bridge that way.
Yeah.
I was talking with my father about who's going to buy Paramount Pictures, and it's like, man, there's what, it feels like there's 4 companies now, and 3 of them are, or I should say there's 2 more, but they're tech companies.
What's interesting because Warner Brothers was positioning themselves to buy it, and then they just backed out. So it sounds like they got what they wanted. They looked in the books and saw what was happening behind the scenes and said, that's too much drama for us. And even that's insane. Because
well, also, didn't they just steal Tom Cruise already? Didn't they just I mean, like, so what else do they have?
You got your golden goose. We don't need the rest of you. So I don't know. It's such a crazy thing.
If NBC Universal Peacock buys them, what a crazy umbrella that becomes. And which one of those platforms do they keep? And I don't know. Peacock is not a good player, but Paramount doesn't play on the PlayStation 5. So I don't know which one is the better technology there.
It does and it doesn't. One of my biggest issues with the Paramount app is that the Paramount app, to stream anything, it requires like a connection that is like quadruple what Netflix needs. And I feel like it's throttling my internet every time we try to watch Survivor. And I'm like, guys, we need to stop watching this damn app because I can't even, my security system starts to wig out because there's too much bandwidth being used. This is insane.
Yeah, Netflix really is the OG of like, you could be on an island in the middle of the Pacific with one bar. It's like, we got you covered. Let's show you some Arrested Development.
Yeah. But it's such a funny thing that Paramount is. I don't know. It was interesting because also on a side note, but tinfoil hat time. So even after all of this stuff happened, we saw that Warner Brothers was going to buy them. They were positioning it. They were talking to bankers, and they backed out. They back out, and then this week they're breaking the internet by saying how bad Paramount was behind the scenes with their child actors and that new HBO Max documentary special about like the Nickelodeon child abusers. And I'm watching this, I'm like, did they almost had a deal with these guys, saw all the dirty laundry and said, now we're going to air that dirty laundry on TV in documentary form, which is just, coincidentally, it's such a weird.
Well, Netflix was doing that Vince McMahon documentary, and all of a sudden they found a bunch of stuff, right? And they kept it hush, but like it all came out and it was all really bad. So I don't know. You know, I listen, I believe those kids.
Well, I mean,
is the long and short of it.
Last night, we were watching it last night, and we got through the Drake Bell episode, and I'm like, these people all need to get burned at the stake. Like, this is bad. Like,
it's real bad, and it feels like it's just another scar on Los Angeles, and you know, just this is why I want to bring it full circle. We dislike the committees that are making these movies, that there are so many people that have to have a say in it. The problem is when there's not a lot of say going on is you give a lot of power to a few people, and unfortunately, people abuse that power. And I feel like there was, of the hundreds of kids shows me and you watched, there's a handful of them that probably were not handled well. Because you know where you don't hear these stories from? You're not hearing these stories about All That, right? But it's the offshoot shows from the All That show that were bad. So
and then you watch this documentary and you see that, oh yeah, they were totally race baiting and all that.
Yeah.
I'm like, that sucks.
And they're kids. They don't know what they're saying. They're just telling jokes. They just want to be funny and, you know, get popularity and status and all the things that people become actors, you know, why people become actors.
Yeah, they just want to let their narcissism flag burn and then become kings of the world.
I just need you to tell me how handsome and pretty I am, laugh at my jokes, and clap for me. And
my ego is very fragile. I need everyone to love me.
Oh, I was saying a truthful statement. I don't know what show. Okay.
I know you were. I know you were, but that's Hollywood attracts a certain type of people, and if you're not the actor who wants that praise and that artistic expression, you're also the predator who's trying to make these things and abuse the power that you gain from these things. So it's such a scary thing that Hollywood has been made up of these two archetypes.
Speaking of archetypes, now Taylor, the picture that Taylor showed you is what the show is, but there's a bunch of things I haven't been able to ask Taylor about. Taylor, what is going on with the infighting at Star Wars? Why is George Lucas taking selfies with Bob Iger? Are they going to try to oust? Or is old man Obi-Wan Kenobi going to be like, I founded the Clone Wars. I need to fix Star Wars before I die.
Okay, so I'm watching all this stuff happening, and people are like, okay, Star Wars is getting too woke. These things are happening. Bob Iger comes back. Bob Iger's killing a bunch of projects. Speaking of projects, the new show, Star Wars Acolyte, that trailer was pretty great. But I'm also worried that the trailer may be misleading because it could be very great and also could be a dumpster fire. So
the internet hates the trailer, Taylor. You're the first person to tell me you were excited by it.
I saw guys with yellow lightsabers and I saw the High Republic, and apparently the internet doesn't like the High Republic, but I find it fascinating. But I'm watching this stuff and then I'm seeing all these things, and then I see George Lucas with Bob Iger and saying like, oh, I support Bob Iger. I support the hard decisions. And then I hear this little tidbit that the sole single owner of the most Disney stock is now George Lucas. And I feel like George is slowly kissing babies, playing politics, and he's going to hostily take over Disney.
If it's not that, I do feel like he was like, hey, Bob, what's going on with my stock? Like, I feel like he would have shook him down. I feel like he's like, the boys made this replica lightsaber for me. Let me show it to you. I feel like he scared the shit out of him because, Disney is not doing well and is hurting.
And then George is coming in and now praising everyone's bad guy. But it also kind of felt like a lot of memes came out of it when George Lucas is like, now the emperor, and he's like, everything is happening as I foreseen, and here I am to rise to my power. And he's going to come up and then be like, guess what, Disney? I have the most stake in this. I am now running the show.
Someone's going to tell Samuel L. Jackson, what? There was a Sith Lord the whole time on the Disney board secretly controlling things from the shadows?
And it's just going to be George Lucas spinning in his chair with a hood on it, and I'll just be like, we knew it!
Yo, it's going to be George Lucas on a lounging couch like this, and it's going to be Mickey Mouse in the slave Leia outfit. He's like, oh, you see my little bitch I got on a chain. What are we doing now?
Solo. Like all that stuff. That'd be so funny. There's so many memes that are going to come out of this.
Tangent. I saw a funny video of a little girl who told her father that she likes the slave Leia outfit. But he's like, it's demeaning because she's a slave. And she was like, oh, I would stop being a slave, but I would keep wearing that outfit.
Yeah. I like how Disney has been trying to get rid of that in general. Like, they don't sell any slave Leia merchandise. They even renamed Boba Fett's ship to it's now just a Fire Spray Mark 1. It's not the Slave 1 anymore. They've taken all that stuff out, but people are like, that was the sexiest thing in nerddom that existed for like 50 years. Don't take that away from us.
I found it, everybody. I'm putting it in the chat room. Check that out. Not right now, of course. Hang out with us, but then check that out after the episode.
Okay. But so, natural segue away from all the Disney stuff. Again, following the internet and how one thing happens and then this rhetoric follows to, oh, X-Men is going to be a dumpster fire because this guy was fired. Everything's on fire. Everything's ruined. Everyone and their mom were excited for the new Ghostbuster film. And the reviews dropped today, and it is insanely mixed. And
is it mixed upon what's mixed about it? Because I'm going to let you know, they've created a very complicated world. It's there's a lot of people and there's a lot of stuff, and they haven't really explained ghosts and all that well. Yeah, they're trying to do something.
Ghostbusters Frozen Empire on. Hey, give a shit. Why, Fandango? Stop doing this. They try to show me the trailer, and I'm like, I don't need to see the trailer. Just show me the thing. It is currently sitting at 96 reviews at a 46%. And then if you go over to Metacritic, which I think is the much more fair way of viewing things, It coincidentally also has a 46, but 63% of the reviews are mixed, with 23% being positive and only 13% being negative. But the people who loved it love it. The people who don't love it don't love it at all. But the mixed are basically all saying the same thing. Too many characters.
Yeah.
Too many things going on. Where are they going with this? And it's all these things are people like, maybe they just expected too much, but this was not meant to be like the Empire Strikes Back of a trilogy. This is just another story of the Ghostbusters in New York now. It was meant to be like an episode of the TV show where it's not like a season premiere or a season finale. It's like episode 6. Like it's just there.
Funny enough, that's interesting. That's a really interesting way to put it. I think that maybe they needed to do a web special, a YouTube short, something to like ease us into all of these changes, because there is a lot going on.
Yeah.
Is Paul Rudd the guy in charge now?
From my understanding, it's still the old kids are still in charge, but
okay.
Paul Rudd is like the resident adult on the group.
Okay.
Because he's a science teacher. But regardless of all of that, I mean, all the reviews are just all over the place, but the people that I actually like, the people who I actually pay attention to, the ones that actually love these movies, they all loved it. But ironically, IGN, which is probably one of the worst websites you can follow for reviews, IGN gave Madam Web a 5 and She-Hulk an 8 or a 9. IGN gave this movie a 4. So I am refusing to believe that this movie is worse than Madam Web. But apparently, whoever it was at IGN who watched this movie was so mad at it, they gave it a 4.
They're fighting ghosts, right? Like they're doing what they said they were going to do.
It's not Citizen Kane. It's dudes with nuclear proton packs shooting lasers at ghosts.
Yeah, and kids do it too now, and they fight a bunch of ghosts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at some of the headlines, right? So AV Club, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is a fan serviceable entry, but now it's a 4-decade. Like they gave it a rotten, but said good things about it. So again, I don't trust Rotten Tomatoes because they give you negative scores for movies that are like a B. You're like, oh, it was okay, but no, we're gonna give it a bad score. But like the big ones, like Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Total Film, they all kind of said, yeah, there's a lot of characters, there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's still just as fun as all the other ones.
How long is it?
What?
How long is the movie?
Runtime is 2 hours.
What do you want? It's not Citizen Kane. It's not going to be a 3-hour movie.
The way I see it is that it's obviously not as good as the first one. It's probably not as good as the Afterlife, because Afterlife was this weird freak show that was like, this was so damn good, but it was also because it was meant to be a tribute. It's probably better than Ghostbusters 2, and I 100% say it's better than the Answer the Call Ghostbusters movie with the Bridesmaids crew. So I mean, out of the 5, it's
funny when you put it like that. It's like, yeah, Ghostbusters 2 is not a good movie. It's a cash grab movie. It doesn't really add much to the universe. And the Ladies Ghostbusters is fine, but it's not really a Ghostbusters movie. It's Bridesmaids with laser packs.
I was joking with my wife about that movie because we were looking at movies last night and we were watching it. And you're like, that movie actually had some really, really funny gags, but the rest of the movie wasn't good enough to hold up to it because they were kind of, when the main bad guy of the movie is meant to encapsulate the fans of the original movie, you know, right, you're gonna just burn that bridge and people are not going to be happy with you. So there were some really funny gags in it, and I think Chris Hemsworth was one of the funniest characters in that movie because dumb Chris Hemsworth dancing and with his Australian accent was just really entertaining.
Oh, you're talking about Thor: Love and Thunder?
No, but like actually funny. Thor: Love and Thunder, not like that movie that was terrible. But I like his scene where he's like, they're like, "Oh, you wear glasses?" He's like, "No, I just wear the frames. I do it for the look." Like that was funniest. I was not expecting it. I was like, that was actually really clever. He just basically said he's a major hipster and he's making.
Who? is Ghostbusters dead on arrival, or do you think it will do enough business that they'll keep making them? Because that's the thing, like, we're shitting on all these things, and then when they're passable, we're disappointed by them, and it's like, it might just be what it is.
Which is funny. Okay, so it is currently sitting at 46% on Rotten Tomatoes, but on IMDb and Google, who have user reviews, out of right now, it is, how many reviews do they have going on for this? Where's my IMDb review count number? Okay, they don't tell me how many people have reviewed it. That's stupid. They just tell me the number, but they won't say how many. It is currently sitting at a 9 out of 10 on IMDb by fan reviews. And 94% of Google users who have watched the movie like the movie. So
then
it may
what?
be.
Why are people mad that it's fan servicey? They made a movie for the fans of Ghostbusters. Great.
Is it not supposed to be fan servicey? I mean, everyone hated the Bridesmaids Ghostbusters because it was not fan servicey and it was a reboot. And then when they go back and say, hey, we're going to make a reboot with the original cast and continue the story, they're like, that's what we wanted the first time, and now they're pissed. And that's what it's like. To me, it was like when people saw Superman Returns and said this movie sucks because it's not action enough and didn't try anything new. And then when they saw Man of Steel and they said this movie sucks because they tried too many things new and it was too much action. I'm like, okay, so what do you actually want? Because we heard you, we did it, and now you're pissed. What do you want?
The last one had a lot of really great practical effects. Do you think that maybe they did a little bit more CG and maybe that's why audiences aren't connecting with it as much? They might have changed some of the look of it.
From my understanding, all the negative reviews is that there's just too many characters. They're like, wow, we have 2 teams of Ghostbusters. And it's like, okay, that's the complaint, is that you have the cast of the last movie and all the OG team running around. Like, you're just mad that there's 12 characters that you wanted. Then,
and I think the thing that people don't realize that the old team are old people, and it's probably nice that they don't have to be there for that entire amount of time.
I don't know. Like, I see a lot of people who were complaining about this in the reviews, and they're all basically saying that, where's this franchise going? And I'm like, does every franchise need to have some
Thanos
aspect? Yeah,
right.
Like, can't we just make movies for the sake of making movies? Because that's what it looks like.
Yeah, it's funny.
They made this movie as just like an episode of the series. It's not meant to be like.
It reminds me of the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies.
Yeah,
that especially 2 and 3 felt like they could have been in the middle of the season.
And that's exactly it. Like, we maybe as audiences, maybe we're just expecting everything to feel like an MCU and everything to feel like a trilogy like Star Wars. But can't we just have a random ass movie where they go on an adventure and it has no impact on the next movie? Because that's what we got with the Star Trek movies. That's what we get with every random Star Wars side story. But we don't need to have every single thing lead into an MCU level event.
I mean, I guess people love a sacred timeline, and Rogue One fits so great because it literally ends where A New Hope, you know what I mean? It weasels in, but not most movies are going to be like that. And I don't want to see Ghostbusters in the 90s where we see a CG Bill Murray's face to make him look like he looked in Groundhog's Day, because that's the other option on the table, and I don't want that movie. I'd rather see the Stranger Things kids.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with the fact that the cast is old and now we have this new young group, and I'm cool with that. Like, that's fine with me. I'm still gonna see this movie in theaters. I know I'm gonna enjoy it because every person that I've talked to that I actually trust their opinions, they all said the same thing. It was a Ghostbusters movie and it was a lot of fun.
Do you think they should have just done the real Ghostbusters and just done the cartoon? And this movie is just introducing us to that team?
Maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're just doing that. And I don't know, but I see all of these reviews and they just seem so damn cynical. And like this one right here, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire tries too hard, very hard, to satisfy the series fans with all the nostalgia that sometimes it doesn't work.
Okay.
What do you want? What
Yeah.
do you actually want from this?
Sometimes it doesn't work. That happens.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, I mean, I don't know. I felt like the last Ghostbusters, there was some choices that was made in Afterlife of just like character motivations, and everything was so sad. And I feel like there was other ways to get there.
Mhm.
That being aside, I liked all of the Ghostbuster stuff. The ghosts look great. Like the bringing back of all the things, they really give all that stuff a really great eye
Yeah,
and
like the
really great
actual
attention
busting
to it.
of the ghosts looks is fantastic. So I'm good with that. Um,
Mm.
but I'm looking at just like even just with the standard tracking for this movie, it's tracking very well. So this movie was made with $100 million budget. Like compared to the modern day blockbuster, that's a pretty small budget for a film. And you could probably say that $100 million budget, maybe 40% of that budget was to pay the cast because it's a big cast.
It's a really big cast. This is probably one of the bigger casts. And the reason why they did that last movie and got to do so much is that they probably got a lot more bang for their buck. See, that's maybe my problem. Don't bring back the old people. Don't give Bill Murray $10 million. Make a better thing. Like, I build another set. This one looks very CGE to me. All the freezing of the streets and stuff like that. But again, that's not me being mad that they're there. It's just a choice.
That's just me pointing out that this is an episode of the show because they did that a lot in the show.
Okay.
Like, to me, that's how the show was. Like, these really crazy situations that got wrapped up and that was just a one-off.
You don't want at the end of this movie a government guy walks into the room with a briefcase and they're like, do you need to fight a ghost? He's like, no, I'm with an organization that you should know of. And it's a G.I. Joe symbol like they did in Transformers.
No, so what's going to happen is he's going to walk in and open his briefcase and he's going to have the painting of Vigo rolled up and he's listening to Vigo and Vigo's controlling everything and they're setting up Vigo as the new.
What are you doing with this?
I will be reborn. Like,
I mean, that movie is not good. And I don't think I mean, maybe you do redeem it. Maybe you bring back the goo and you figure out a way to like get that into another movie. I don't know, but it's
I can tell you exactly how you redeem it. With their original plan for Ghostbusters 3, which turned into the Ghostbusters video game. Where the idea was that Yvonne Chandler, the guy who made the building and the Temple of Zool and all that stuff, had laid the pipework and all the tunnels for the slime rivers and was using the slime rivers to make a giant summoning circle throughout the city. And he was using that to summon Gozer. So like there was actually a reason why those two stories existed and they actually wrapped it up, but they never made that film. So they turned it into a video game instead.
It's a great video game.
It's a very great video game.
It's a really fun video game.
That is the video game to play because the story was as good as the original films.
I just think that Ghostbusters is in a weird spot. It's of action comedy, and I think maybe they're going a little bit more action than comedy. But I guess to your point, Taylor, what do people want? And you know, it's funny. It's like, where does this lead to? It leads to more Ghostbusters. If people go see this movie, they'll make another Ghostbusters next year. If people don't go see this movie, it leads to no more Ghostbusters.
Okay, look, if we can have 10 or 11 Fast and the Furious movies that have no direction, let me have a couple more Ghostbusters movies that also have no direction.
Isn't it crazy?
I'm cool with that.
If Fast and Furious 6, if the reviews were like, where are they going with these cars? I mean, the answer was space, but
they're going to space. That's where
they go to
the
space.
goal is 5 movies from now, they're going to go to space and fight in the moon.
All right, great. Let's put Ghost on the moon. Whatever. Like, okay, we're going to space, everybody.
Wasn't that actually the original pitch? I mean, the original Ghostbusters that Dan Aykroyd had originally envisioned was that the Ghostbusters were a couple like astronauts who were catching ghosts on like asteroids and stuff. And they were like, we can't do this. And then they grounded it to the point where it's now just a bunch of like fired university scientists doing this out of it. Like such a crazy behind the scenes stuff about this movie.
I think they should do a poltergeist and there's a house that's haunted and then the Ghostbusters go through a portal and then are in a crazy Gozer world. I think we want to see Ghost World.
I like that. The real Ghostbusters even had a ghost episode in space. Yeah, I'm good with that. Let me have the weird stuff of that.
No one can hear you scream in space, but ghosts can, and they're very scary in space.
Ghosts apparently can still scream in space.
Yeah, they have no
sound doesn't
problem.
carry, they can find a way.
They can find a way. They're ghosts. They're fourth dimensional beings in a tesseract, like an interstellar.
So what I'm basically getting at, kind of the whole thing about this whole show, this episode, was with X-Men 97, everyone was shitting on it prematurely, and then it turned out great. And now the hype for Ghostbusters has sort of deflated by the reviews, but the fans that are coming out of it are still loving it to pieces.
People were saying mean things about this Acolyte trailer, and that show's not going to be good. I want more lightsabers. I want more lightsabers in Star Wars. So checks my box.
You mean that we're getting a Star Wars show with lightsabers in every episode? Where was that this entire time? I want this. But I don't know. I mean, I just see all this complaining, and I'm just like, guys, let's let people enjoy things. Maybe we should go back to the day where like reviewers won't be allowed to review things until the movie comes out because it ruins things. No more advanced screenings. Everyone can see the movie the day it releases.
I also just think I think it's been slow go to get people back in movie theaters. Yeah, I think that's also part of all of this.
Yeah, it really is. It still is. And I'm getting a text from work. I left already. What do you guys want?
Tell them you're on the internet. Tell them you're live.
I don't care. They don't care either. But on a completely separate note, before we wrap up, I want to say one thing, Michael. Did you see the trailer for the new Alien TV show?
I didn't know what that was. I knew it was Alien something. It reminded me a lot of that video game.
I cannot, for like Alien Romulus, I think is the name of it.
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord. Is it a movie or is it a TV show?
Taylor, I couldn't tell. It looked like a movie. The way that the shots were looking, I thought that was a movie because it looked so good. Maybe it's a 4-episode exclusive, and it's like, okay, so then whatever that is.
Okay, no. Okay, here it is.
Is he doing? Wait, but isn't? I thought Ridley Scott was going to do another movie.
Who knows at this point?
Okay,
so this is done by Fede Alvarez, the nice fella who made the recent Evil Dead movie. He was hired to do this movie in the same vein as Prey was done for Hulu. This was meant to be a Hulu original movie. And then when they finished it, they were like, hey, how about we just put this in theaters? Because holy shit.
Sure.
So this is actually coming out in theaters this August. This is a movie.
Mazel tov to them, to make the quality so high. I hope it's the thing that makes those movies great is when it's one alien. And I really hope that they find a way to have the creature versus a handful of people.
I also like it when like the movie doesn't have Ridley Scott's dumbest scientists in space trope.
Sure.
Because every one of the movies he makes, there's always just like one or two scientists that are like, these are the smartest people on the planet. So they're on this mission, but they're doing the dumbest things possible.
There's also 15 people, and you're like, you're all dead. Like that guy, mercenary dude, guy with a Chef Clint, you're all gonna die.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. There's guy with a Chef Clint. I get that reference now.
Right. There's always some guy that's like a weird face. You're like, oh, that guy's gonna die. He looks weird.
Yeah. It's like they're gonna save the pretty ones, and then they kill the pretty ones. And you're like, I don't know who's gonna get saved at this point.
One's gonna be a robot and have milk inside of them.
Oh my god, they're still like texting me about work. It's not my problem. Not my problem. But no, I honestly think it's great, and my hope is that this movie is going to be more in vein of what we got with Aliens, right? So I mean, Alien came out in 1979, and it was Ridley Scott's baby, and then James Cameron came out. Was it 7 years later?
Mm-hmm.
Made Aliens. Flipped the franchise on its head, added all of this new canon that everyone is like, this is the best shit ever. And then Alien 3 came out, ruined it. Alien Resurrection came out, ruined it. Then they made Prometheus, and then that's when Ridley Scott came back for Prometheus and said, everything that James Cameron did that was good, I'm going to not do and redo the story. And then he made Alien Covenant 5 years later, and then made the stuff from Prometheus make even less sense.
A third of Alien Covenant is amazing, and then a bunch of it is just whatever.
I was really frustrated that Alien Covenant, one of the coolest stuff about that movie, was cut out of the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I'm watching the stuff. Like they even released a prologue for the movie on the internet. It should have just been part of the movie. It's 5 minutes. Put the damn scene in the movie because it helps set the movie up. And then there's a bunch of deleted, like the movie. I don't know it's 2 hours long, like 2 hours flat, and I feel like they should have gave it the extra 20 minutes of deleted content to make the story make sense. But honestly, Michael Fassbender as a bad guy is probably the biggest win for those two movies because he's just such a great actor.
So good. And all the scenes he's in is great, and all the scenes he's not in are not good.
Yeah. Just have him in all the things. But I don't know. I think internet as a whole today is just becoming too cynical, and we just need to go back and enjoy things for the sake of enjoying them.
I mean, the investment into them has never been lower, right? Like to watch Star Wars is almost all streaming online. It's you know what I mean? It's the one I'm paying the least amount of money for Star Wars I've ever paid. Because back in the day we saw the movies, had to see the movies, saw them all twice.
And then we also had to buy the movies to watch them again. And we just every time the new format came out, we would double dip, triple dip, and I've got the new VHS. Oh, there's a widescreen VHS. I bought the widescreen. There's a Laserdisc. Got the Laserdisc. There's a DVD.
It was great. It was great for me because I could always borrow whatever the old format was from Taylor because he already got the new one, so that he had no problem letting you borrow the other ones.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like people are just too damn cynical lately, and I'm legitimately worried now because there's images that have come out for the new Beetlejuice movie, which is perfectly titled Beetlejuice, which I love.
It's a great title.
It's supposed to come out this year. We had a couple images today, looked absolutely perfect. I'm worried.
I was cynical about it until I saw that Tim Burton sitting in the waiting room chair, and I'm like, oh, they're rebuilding everything.
Yeah. And the fact that Tim Burton's back for this and he's doing, like, I'm happy that everything that they should be doing is being done. I'm just worried that the same thing is going to happen where people are like, why was this movie made? Why did we need the sequel? Because we needed it. That's why we have it. Stop complaining. Stop looking a gift horse in the mouth. Stop being so damn cynical. Why did we need it? Because we wanted it.
Because Michael Keaton said yes to it finally.
Yeah. So I want this movie to be exactly as amazing as it's making up to be. And I'm worried that some pissy cynic critic is gonna try to shit on it, and someone's gonna see the review and say, oh wow, it must suck, and just not see it. But people need to start making up their minds for themselves, because I'm gonna go see it regardless. I want it, so I'm gonna see it.
Well, we'll have to play the speculation on that movie another day. And I wonder what other things that will be dead on arrival that we will find out are actually doing pretty good. Just like we're doing pretty good over at the patreon.com/theculturednerd. There you can subscribe to us. Thank you so much to all of our wonderful patrons. Thank you for supporting us and supporting the content that we do here. You allow us to make it live in addition to all of the other fun stuff that we do. Taylor is your main host. Michael Santel is your co-host. Logo by Jose Navarro. Intro by Taylor Murphy and Jay Stu. If you have your cell phones out, take a picture of that. It'll bring you to the channel. Like, comment, subscribe, all of those fun things. It makes it easier for people to find. Question of the day. What's your perfect mashup franchise? If you were to mash up the real Ghostbusters and Beetlejuice, that sounds like a match made in heaven. What things would you put together like a Reese's cup? Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see all you kids and cats next time.
Have a good one. See you next week, everyone.